The gentleman from Oklahoma.
Mr. Speaker, I allocate myself 3 minutes.
The gentleman is recognized for 3 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in opposition to this job-killing conference report. At a time when Congress should be focused on economic expansion, the majority brings us this conference report, which will kill jobs and make financial transactions more expensive. Last December, this chamber supported a bipartisan effort to bring transparency and regulation to the over-the-counter derivatives market while allowing for the management of legitimate risk. It recognized that mom and pop shops on Main Street were not the villains behind the economic collapse. They did not cause the financial crisis and should not be treated as if they did. The derivatives title this chamber passed reflected the need for commercial end users to lay off risk so that they could offer their products at reasonable and stable prices. Unfortunately, the Senate decided that only some industries, were worthy of inexpensive risk mitigation. Despite the overwhelming bipartisan support our derivatives language enjoyed, during a meeting in the dark of night, our bipartisan language was stripped out. A title that we passed by voice vote was only going to survive if offered as an amendment. So that's what I and my good friend from New Jersey, Mr. Garrett, did. As the conferees from this chamber, we defended the House position. Unfortunately, at dawn last Friday, our amendment was defeated on a party line vote, stripping away the only remaining protection for end users. American small businesses were told by the majority they would be regulated as though they were Wall Street. A report released yesterday believes the language change by the majority could cost U.S. companies $1 trillion in capital and liquidity requirements. This isn't money to pay lavish bonuses. This is money to pay salaries, fund research, development, and pay construction loans. Further analysis of this language concludes that $400 billion would be needed for collateral for business to post with dealer counterparts to cover the exposure of their existing over-the-counter derivatives. It's estimated that another $370 billion represents the additional credit capacity that companies could need to cover future risk. Despite the majority's voracious appetite for spending, these are enormous dollar amounts. Rural America doesn't have the option of waiving phony pay-go requirements. These costs are real. The ability to pay them does not exist. Business will now have to cut spending, which simply put means job losses, or hold on at its very own risk, therefore concentrating risk. You know, once upon a time, this bill was supposed to avoid risk concentration. That was once upon a time. Mr. Chairman, I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman reserves the balance of his time. The gentleman